Today's video is going to be a very relaxed Q&A session here in my front yard as I shoot my bow and try to answer some questions that you guys had for me from my last community post. So hopefully it'll be interesting. And before I get started with the questions, you may be wondering what this little contraption is. Well, this is just a bow stand that I made to hold my bow. I add a little shelf here to hold a drink, rangefinder, phone, those kind of things. And this was actually made with the base out of my self-extinguishing Christmas tree project that I did a few years ago. This was the stand that the Christmas tree mounted to, and I had an extinguisher down here and some pulleys and stuff. So if you're interested, you can go check that project out. It was not the most successful, but I thought it was a fun project. So anyway, let's get on to the questions. All right, so the first question that you guys had was really from a few of you, and it was pertaining to what bow am I using, what's my setup, arrows, release, all that kind of stuff. And before I get into that, I feel I should preface this by talking about my recurve bows, because in past videos, some of you know that I really enjoy traditional archery, and that is really my preference. But I had an elk hunt a couple of times over the past few years, and I took my recurve up there, and it's a tough unit, and I was only able to get within about 55 yards of some bull elk, and I could never take an ethical shot because my distance for that is about 35 on in. So anyway, it was kind of frustrating. So this compound is very new to me. It is nothing special, just a budget bow from Sportsman's Warehouse. It is a bear species. I think I paid maybe about $325 on sale. It included the quiver, sights, not the arrows, those are separate. But anyway, it's nothing special. It is a 55 to 70 pound bow. I have it cranked all the way, but it's not quite 70. I think it topped out at like 66 or 67, but it's maxed out. So, you know, it's adequate for my needs. Anyway, I have replaced the sights with black gold 5-pin because I think it came with like maybe 3-pin, and I just wanted extra distances. The arrows that I'm using are bloodline, easton bloodlines. They are tipped with DRT, dirt nap gear broadheads, and I think they're about 30 inches long. And I think, oh yeah, and then my release, this release is a spot-hogg wiseguy. I don't know if that'll focus. This is probably dollar for dollar the most expensive entry into my archery setup, but a few of my friends who have shot compounds for years really recommended it, and so far I really like it. And I think that is pretty much it. As I said, pretty much everything on here is standard with the exception of just switching out the sights. And real quick, one more thing on the bow, because you may be wondering what this is. This is a bino harness just to hold binoculars so I can take them with me hunting. And I wear them while I shoot because it's kind of like a practice how you play kind of thing. And there also is a little attachment pouch that holds this rangefinder that goes on here. But I'm in the process of sewing a new one. I got a sewing machine a while back, and it'll eventually make it into videos. But anyway, that's what this thing is. And the next question is from Glass House and Garden, asking about my sunken greenhouse project. How's it going? Am I still using it? Well, if you look right over my shoulder, it is there in the background. We still do use it. Use it every winter, mostly for just a few of our potted like peppers and tomatoes. And then we use it for all the starts for our main garden. And I get so many questions on this greenhouse, but I don't often post videos because I like to post videos of new stuff. And I haven't done any real updates in it, so nothing's different than what you've seen before. But I think I'll respond to you that I am definitely going to do a video or two this winter. So anyway, look for that coming up. was asking, do I still have the rainwater cisterns for the animals? Yes, I do. I have cisterns on the front and the back of my property where they collect from little rain roofs, or in the front it used to be a tarp setup, but they're still both actively going, and I need to set up my game camera on the back one so you can see all the animals that come in. We get javelina and deer and coyotes and bobcats, and it's pretty neat to see everything that comes in. Next question is from Chris G18, asking when I am bringing the mustache back. Well, related to the bow and hunting questions, I do have an elk hunt coming up in the next couple of weeks. And that will be a 2-week period where I won't have to shave for work. And that's always my preferred time to bring in a mustache, is when I can let it grow for a time and shave it in. But my girls aren't fans of it, so no guarantee, but it could make a comeback. And the next question is from Furiosa Sonoran, asking about reasonably priced tools for home and RV based projects, talking about they're on a budget. Based on your name, I can tell you are from my area, the Sonoran Desert, which is all of this area of Arizona, extending down into Mexico. Well, for that, it's going to come as no surprise, but you know I'm a huge fan of Ryobi tools, and as far as like having a drill, driver, circular saw, and maybe like an angle grinder, I would keep on the lookout for one of their combo kits. I think it's the best value for reasonable quality you can get out there. As far as getting batteries for those, I would never buy Ryobi batteries until you find the Home Depot Ryobi days, because you can get 2 4-amp-hour batteries between $80 and $100. And it sounds expensive, but they're really the best batteries to work with. As for other things, I would definitely recommend getting yourself a framing square. It's a little triangle thing that will enable you to use your circular saw as a miter saw, and also with the circular saw, that can pretty much replace a table saw in itself too, so that's why I recommend it. Such a useful tool. And then for just some of your other bare bones tools like socket sets, screwdrivers, things like that, hand tools, I would definitely check like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, look at yard sales. Sometimes people will give away a whole toolbox of gold that they have no idea for relatively cheap. And if you can't find it there, I would definitely check Harbor Freight. I know a lot of people hate their stuff, but I have had decent luck, especially with non-working part kind of things, like just a screwdriver, very basic socket set. As long as you're not like running a mechanic shop, it's going to do you fine for most purposes. And I think that's it. I may elaborate further in the future, but hopefully that answers your question. And next question is from Tommy Boutine or Boughton. He asked, how did you become proficient in so many trade skills? Did you go to a trade school? Were you taught by family? Or were you just self-taught? Well, it's a combination of two of those. I never went to a trade school. I would say I'm mostly self-taught with heavy influence from family. I've always been the type of person who, you know, if I'm interested in something, I want to get my hands dirty and just start trying to figure it out, whether that's grabbing a saw and cutting wood, or grabbing a welder and seeing if I can make sparks fly. But this day and age, being self-taught is a lot easier because there's YouTube and Rumble, and you can watch videos of professionals showing you how to do stuff. But my heavy family influence comes from both my mom's side and my dad's side and my wife's side. My mom's dad, he was a rancher in Nebraska, did all his own repairs on heavy machinery and doing veterinarian things for horses and cows. So he was just a very self-reliant person, and he was a guy, I literally saw, the first time I had ever seen anybody weld underwater. There was a float valve in one of the stock tanks that got broken, and I will not name the person who might have been responsible for that. But anyway, I did not know you could do that, and he did it. On my dad's side, my dad and his father, big hunters. They used to always build their own deer stands and repair boat motors and, make their own flounder and frog gigging setups. So just a lot of can-do attitude. And then my father-in-law, my wife's dad, he's always been a big influence in showing me that, if you can take something apart, you can probably figure out how to put it back together. It's just most people are not willing to do the scary part. And we all have that, but it's really just as simple as getting your hands dirty and starting to figure it out. And you will learn far more than you ever thought you could. As for the trade school thing, so I never went to a trade school, but I did go to college. Although I will say I probably learned 10 to 100 times more stuff after college, figuring things out for myself than I ever did during college. After the last few years, I would not recommend anybody who doesn't have a specific avenue, like a doctor or engineer or something like that, going to college. I think you have a better likelihood of losing your soul and getting in a lot of debt. But trade schools or certification schools, whether it be like an accounting certification school or like a welding trade school, couldn't recommend those enough. They give you real skills that can be readily translatable into income in the future. But my only caveat in light of the last few years, as I mentioned, is I would never go to a school that requires you to do something that you don't feel comfortable with, or receive something that you don't want. It's absolutely not worth it. In this day and age, you can apprentice with somebody and you can learn what you need to know from 100 different other places that won't require you to do things that you don't feel comfortable with. So the next question is another multi-part from a few of you, Magayo, Emilio Navarro, Alan Pelton. And basically the question is, how do you plan out projects that you have in your head? Do you write them down? Do you draw them out? Is it all in the head? Any projects coming up? Anything with the pump house, backup power, and really loved your travel trailer build. I don't know why I combined all those into the thing, but I kind of felt like it all made sense together. Anyway, about projects, most of the time when I'm thinking about a project, I'll just think about it. I put it in my head and I kind of let it rattle around. When I'm falling asleep at night, I think about it. And then depending on when I need to get this project done, if it's like kind of just like a travel trailer project, I thought about that for 6 months before I actually put anything together. So I'll think about it first. Sometimes I will draw little sketches, but rarely do I draw out like defined plans. Most of the time I like to just work as I go with the idea I have in my head or the rough sketch that I have, with one exception, and that is the travel trailer project. Or actually a couple different exceptions, but specifically the travel trailer project. I did draw that one out for all the base framing. I drew it out and I wanted to make sure all my weights and dimensions were very specific because of DOT standards and where I needed to have the axle and the tongue and different weight ratios and things like that. And because it's going to be something that's on the road and I want it to be safe. And I think it's definitely safer than 99% of the ones on the road. And then anything related to the backup power for the pump house, that is going to be later in the winter, but I'm probably going to do just like a solar panels, maybe like a Harbor Freight system to charge controller, very basic, to just a deep cycle battery or something like that, that people can follow very easily and people will be able to imitate. But that's just off the top of my head for now. And then any projects coming up? I don't know. I mean, I've mentioned all the fire trailer rebuilds, and I've got an idea for a heavy lifter project where I'm going to weld something together that will lift hay bales up, so my wife and daughter can stack hay bales in the hay barn without having to hold them with their arms. But actually, specifically, kind of related to the hunting thing, I got a sewing machine about 6 months ago, and I've been sewing little things together. So eventually I want to sew a backpack and hike the Arizona Trail. It's a goal I've had for about 3 or 4 years now. Something's always come up to keep me from getting started on it. That is from Darren, Kentucky Bucks. How is the Starlink working? Well, the quick answer is it's working great, and compared to what we did have, it is awesome. But I will say there are times, maybe 2 or 3, 4 times a week, I'll notice that it will go out for like maybe 30 seconds. And I don't know if that's when it's switching over from one string of satellites to the next. I don't know. But as I mentioned, compared to the older internet we had, it's just definitely a step up. It's kind of expensive, so if you're in town, there's probably better options than Starlink. But for my situation, it's doing pretty well. It's from my buddy Tim at Desert Owl Forge. He's a great blacksmith and all-around tradesman in Cochise County. And he asked, are there any future planned pallet projects? Those are always my favorite. And also, do you Lego? Well, I used to do a lot of pallet projects. I think they're one of the gateway drugs to people learning how to get into, building things for themselves, because if you can find the pallets for free, that's very easy. There's no barrier to entry. And I probably will do some more in the future. I always like them. I love the rustic kind of industrial look of the used or weathered pallet wood. But you know what? Since I got into welding, rusty metal and things like this have almost become my pallets. So I definitely will do more in the future. I just don't have anything planned right now. And then as far as Legos, when I was a kid, I played with Legos, loved them. But to be honest, I don't like the direction the company's gone with all these kits. They're like a kit on the White House or the kit of like some Star Wars flying thing. I don't know. I like that. I always wanted to get the generic ones so that I could build what I want and not follow I don't like to follow instructions. So anyway, hopefully that answered your question. When I was a kid, though, the one I really did love, I think it was called Connects, and they were the ones with engines or little motors, and they had like little rubber band pulleys, so you could build things that ran or make a crane, different things like that. So I really, really liked Connects. I think that's what they're called. This question is from Ryan, Rye Cry for Christ. He said, how did you become a firefighter as well as a YouTuber? Well, I'm pretty sure my story is almost exactly the same as everybody else who has a full-time job in addition to making random videos on whatever their interests are. But firefighter, my brother was one, and I liked the job. I thought it was, something that I could feel proud of, a little exciting, but I also really liked the schedule. As for YouTube, my friend Andy had sent me a link to a YouTube video of touring his garden, just showing me so I could see what his garden looked like. And I sent him one back of my little rainwater harvesting project. And after several months, I started getting people commenting on it. And I literally just took the videos, talking to him in the video. And anyway, after that, I said, well, I'll film a couple other things. And then because I like to make things and do odd projects, it's just been a way to kind of support a hobby that I enjoy. All right, well, that's it for the questions. Hopefully they were interesting. And for those of you who did ask questions, hopefully my answers were at least somewhat satisfactory. As for me, I'm just going to be hanging out for another couple hours in my front yard, enjoying this absolutely gorgeous weather we are having on an early September day in Arizona. It's fully clouds over me. I mean, there's sunny spots elsewhere, but when you got cloud cover in Arizona, it's like a sunny day in London. You take advantage of it, and it's probably like the mid 80s right now, which in early September is a real blessing. So I'm just going to enjoy my little slice of heaven here with, my house and all the little projects that, I can take a little satisfaction that these hands had a part in making. So that's just, I don't need to go on vacation to places. I just hang out at home and, I just enjoy it. So as always, The one thing I did want to mention is I just saw him. You see those little colorful things over there where Olive is laying? Ollie, come. She's going to come running up. Those are some props for Marley's Mustang Tip Challenge that she did this last weekend. And for those of you who may be wondering if my voice sounded a little bit hoarse, yes, it is. And that was just because I was cheering a lot for my daughter on her little Mustang competition. So those are just some of the props, and that might be one of the next videos coming up. I don't know, but I do have this elk hunt coming up, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get another video out before I leave. But, you know, we'll see. If you see an upload, then you'll know I was able to get it finished. So, as always, I appreciate you watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like this. And until I see you next time, God bless.